This is level 1 of the CFA program, the topic on financial statement analysis and the reading on understanding cash flow statements. That last LOS is important for this reading, but it's going to be super important for us when we get to, what did I say, capital budgeting, but also equity analysis. We're going to look at free cash flows. And then, of course, just like we did in the balance sheet and just like we did in the income statement, we'll go ahead and calculate and interpret some ratios. Remember, in both balance sheet and income statement readings, we did these common sized financial statements. Well, we can do the same thing here inside of the statement of cash flows. And so what this is going to do is this is going to give us a sense of the percentages and how those percentages have changed over time. And this is what I tell students all the time. And I hope I said this back in the balance sheet and the income statement readings, but I might not have. So I'm gonna say something really important here that can be applied back there. That the main reason that we use these common size cash flow, balance sheet, and income statement is to see the proportions, but also to see the pattern of proportions over time, so that we can see whether we are increasing our ability to generate cash, and we can see where we are using that cash over time. So think about the patterns. That's extremely important for the internal evaluation of this company. But then, comma, there's a comma there, then we want to use those patterns and those proportions to compare it to other firms. Remember, as good financial analysts, we're trying to find companies that are undervalued or overvalued. Well, this is one way to do it. Look at the common size balance sheets, look at the patterns, and then compare them to all of the similar firms. And this kind of tells you something about, okay, if all these firms were the same size, what would those proportions be? And that's what this really means, that first bullet point. Yeah, vary depending on its growth stage, both the sources and the uses of cash. Now look at that second one there. This is almost silly for me to say. A company must generate cash flow from operations, right? What's the goal of the business? The goal of the business is to maximize shareholder wealth. Well, how do firms do it? Well, they find product lines, they find long-term assets that are going to generate cash, not just today, but next week and next month and 10 years from now. You know, I worked in this donut factory. It's a locally owned factory. I went to school with the children of the owner. That's, of course, how I got the job. But you know, they've been in business since 1942. So they're selling donuts all the way back, you know, a long, long time ago, almost 100 years, right? They did it through the 60s and the 80s and the 90s. And they managed to generate cash flow, even though I was probably a terrible donut maker during my summer employment.